Before studying this subject, I really didn't have much of an idea of what Pdhpe was all about, but I've learned that the syllabus is made up of 3 strands, from which age and stage related outcomes and content guides the lesson and assessment creation. The first strand is movement, skill and performance strand, where students participate in physical activities. And then there's the health, safe and active lifestyle strand, where students are taught to see connections between being healthy and having an active lifestyle. And then there's the health, wellbeing and relationship strand, where subjects such as like sexuality, personal identity and relationships are discussed. All of these stranded content need to be integrated, and they need to include the 5 propositions, such as being of educative purpose and strength-based, with value, movement, and they need to help develop a health literacy and include a critical inquiry approach. So they need to include all of these 5 propositions and be taught each year within the strand. Each week, students are required to participate in physical activity, and the time taken with these subjects is equally distributed between the personal development of health aspect and the physical education aspect. There are many positives of Pdhpe that provide a foundation. The main thing is that it provides a foundation for movement and teaches the students how to look after their own health, and all of the relationships and supports the students in growing. Stephen and Colpin 2021 showed that there was a strong correlation between students that were participating in school PE programs, especially those where the students had autonomy, support and a space to practice their competence, with higher levels of activity in their leisure time. And PE is seen as a foundation for lifelong engagement in physical activity. So it's seen as a very, very important subject and to have. With the game sense approach, I found that a very positive approach, and this interweaved throughout a lot of the other subjects. It is in line with the New South Wales curriculum in that it's an inquiry-based model and it's student-centred. It's a model that allows students to develop their own skills and understanding whilst being actively involved in a fun and intrinsically motivating game. All their learning occurs in the real-life game, in context of a game, and this approach develops the students' physical skill development and also enhances their intellectual understanding, and it develops their decision-making skills. Miller and others, 2016, said that the game sense approach stems from pedagogical practice that challenges the traditional paradigm of teaching that is concerned with a linear transmission of specific knowledge and skills. Instead, they said that there was learning is situated within the context of the game, and it's unique and unpredictable, and it's better able to connect the learners with their skills to the demands of the game. It's also based on the premise that understanding and decision making is not dependent on prior knowledge of or sports skill, and this game sense approach is actually friendly to everyone, no matter how sporty or non-sporty people are, and I found games intrinsically motivating, and we could use games as a reward. Miller stated another positive of the game centre approach is that it makes it very easy to meet the demands of students. The students need to engage in physical activity each week, and that the active nature of game playing provides pupils with short bouts of intermittent activity, and this intermittent activity is great for their fitness and stimulates physiological change benefits. Richard Light in 2012 said that the game sense pedagogy involves indirect teaching and is learner-centred. And he said it's based on 4 pedagogical features that offer a framework for its implementation. Light said that teachers need to design the learning environment And so it can take more time and preparation from the teacher. But he emphasised the need to formulate questions that can generate dialogue and active participation from the students. So some of the work can come from the students, where they test and evaluate their ideas, as we saw on the court when we stopped to ask everyone how this was working and see whether we could adjust the rules and devise other ways to make the games more challenging. But the game sense approach is overwhelmingly positive and can be seen as a reward, and students can be motivated to modify their behaviour to be rewarded with some of these games, such as Pac-Man. I saw it as very positive on my prac. The first tutorial I'm going to talk about is the first practical tutorial I attended, and we started playing the Pac-Man tag game along the basketball court lines, and this was a really good opportunity throughout this whole practical tutorial to be in the position of a student and a participant, and to stand there and listen to new rules. It also helped us put the theories from Miller and others, such as Light, into practice. As part of the game, there was an element of teamwork as I communicated with and worked with others, and we had the opportunity to change one rule at a time, and we were able to make mistakes when we changed the game. And if we thought it didn't work out, we could just rethink it again. And it felt good to use our creativity and autonomy and to think up new ideas as we further adapted new rules. It was quite a fun game, and I could see how these games could give students the option. So if there were more sportier children, they could choose to be the Pac-Man and the person that was in. And if you weren't so inclined to run, you could be more strategic and stay away from the people that were in. But eventually you would have to run, and it would provide excitement and motivation to move. We played many games that day. One was like a handball court, where we played nuke and ball and then volleyball, and we also changed the rules around a bit as well. And then eventually this all led to playing a volleyball game, and I could see as all of these games we played during the day, they just, in a fun way, provided me with the skills of movement and lunging out with my hand and, and knocking the ball back, and all these fun ways in this fun environment actually did contribute to me learning skills that were specific for volleyball. Tutorial 2 allowed me to focus on developing my knowledge and skills in planning for the teaching of Pdhpe, and how to create an effective scope and sequence encompassing how to develop quality units of work by using a range of teaching and learning strategies. I discovered that after choosing a stage of learning, I needed to determine the needs of my students and then create learning that catered to the context of these students, whether or not they had disabilities, or whether they were from a specific ethnic origin, or whether they had other issues that they were sensitive about. I also needed to incorporate the current themes within my scope and sequence, and plan learning roles and ideas to be covered within the curriculum and in line with those. Simonton and Irwin, 2020, said that learning should be constructed in a way that allows students to seek out information and create connections to their personal lives. And so by applying the content from the New South Wales primary curriculum within and in line with who my students are and what their needs are, we can create a program of integrated learning experiences covering all the health and physical education strands. And Simonton says that pedagogy such as project-based learning, which is developed from the constructivist theory, provides a place where students can develop their own understanding and students learn how to learn whilst engaging in learning, as students determine what new knowledge is required, and learning is both active and social, and students get to construct knowledge from each other One main priorities and knowledges and skills in lifetime, activities in social and emotional learning, civil inquiry-based instruction styles are used. Production-based work is a way to provide meaning and learning for students, where learning is typically focuses on a single issue and students are given the resources that require them to investigate case studies and scenarios. Stephen and Colton in 2021 discussed how students' PA programs need to add an element of pleasure and fun to encourage non-participants, and I could really see how the game sense approach provides the students with a pleasurable opportunity to get the endorphins and excitement happening, and it created a fun environment where students were promoted to be creative and self-expressive and work within harmony with each other. The next tutorial I looked at weighed in on controversial topics such as sexuality education, and this was probably the most challenging subject I faced. I didn't actually know that the topic of sex was not in the curriculum until stage 4, and so my views on the content of the topic was really challenged. And so I know now that I need to take care to be mindful not to force my opinion on others and to be politically correct. Sexuality as a subject from K to 6 is primarily about correct body names for body parts and boundaries and consent. It doesn't go further, and I need to be mindful of that. This subject is really important. Hendricks and others, 2023, reports that there's a resounding report from parents for school-based relationship and sexuality education in both primary and secondary schools. Australian parents felt that the body anatomy and correct names for body parts were needed to be taught, along with the notion that a child's body belongs to themselves. The subject of personal boundaries and what they are and how they are important is content that should help educate young people and possibly prevent abuse and provide personal safety. And subjects such as bullying, body image and self-esteem and personal development and changes associated with puberty are subjects parents wanted taught by their students. This, along with personal hygiene care, is in line with the curriculum, and it is seen as being essential. Marsden, 2021, extrapolated on the importance of age-appropriate learning on the subject of relationships and content as a human right, and he felt that the World Health Organization notion of being well-being as being more than the absence of harm, but a positive, fulfilling existence, not merely absent of violence, harassment, or illness. He felt that meant it was so important to have consent and all of these other, and basically Simonton and Irwin, they felt that they needed to be provided with a curriculum that it was a positive right of children and young people to access relationships and sexuality education, and this would provide information for them in order to make self-determining, nuanced, ethical and informed decisions later in life when confronted with particular scenarios. And he said that children were entitled to receive that. Tutorial 4 was the second prac tutorial that I attended at Morrisiyama, and this tutorial introduced me to traditional Indigenous games by younger people and people by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. This tutorial provided insight and experience into the process of learning new games, and it also broadened my knowledge and understanding of the sophistication of the traditional culture. Before this tutorial, I had little idea about how to implement this part of the PE curriculum, but I was given a wide range of games to play, and I'm now given many resources where I can access, and I can use this to implement the general capabilities into my lesson planning and scope and sequence. I was tasked with teaching others the game of Boyanjin, and we were responsible for teaching this game to the rest of the students. So this game was derived by the Pdhpe people and traditionally made with kangaroo skin sewn with tendons and stuffed with grass. It was a small ball, and where two teams played against each other, and it's basically a running and passing game. And the aim of the game is for one person holding the ball to run to the end without being touched by the person and scoring a goal. And within this game context, we were able to make up the rules and incorporate different rules and again use the game sense approach. In 2021, Williams and others showed how combining psychology, and in this case self-determination theory, with the game sense approach, with the game Boringen, helped us teach quality education. And I found this was consistent with my findings during the game. The game didn't have many specific rules, so it allowed the students to have autonomy, and the students could stand in positions wherever they wanted, and it was a flexible game with minimal rules. So the students were able to problem solve and have a say in how the game was going and whether or not they wanted to be a striker or not. This game was awesome for helping promote inquiry-based learning, and students were able to critically reflect on what needs to be done and hence problem solved. And I also learned other games such as Mirror Collapse and another game called Kai, which I really loved during this tutorial. In conclusion, my participation across this Pdhpe subject this semester has been incredibly informative, valuable and enjoyable. My understanding of this subject has been challenged. I hold it in high regard, and I appreciate the importance and value of not only the personal development and health side in providing students with valuable skills in physical movement and cognitive development, but I enjoy this subject as a whole and see how important it is in helping students in forming their identity and with students changing and growing bodies and ever-changing hygiene needs. I think it's also a crucial subject in teaching empathy and difference from people from different cultures and like in helping students understand how important boundaries are and help students develop intuition and a sense of what feels comfortable and what doesn't. It's a subject that can teach people what is appropriate behaviour and what is to be tolerated, and can go against bullying, and talks about who can and can't touch you and the importance and nature of consent. Throughout this subject, I have learnt what it feels like to be a student in a PE prac class. I've experienced how successful the game sense approach is in making the development and learning fun, and I've successfully developed physical skills and problem-solving capabilities. And all in all, I feel like this has been an awesome process, and I feel as though all of these learnings meet the curriculum's aims of Pdhpe, which is to empower students with essential knowledge, understanding, skills, values and attitudes to promote well-being and lead a safe, active and healthy life.